and welcome to episode number 62 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Zenekroce and happy that you're spending this time with me today for another great episode. How are you? What's going on in your world? In my world at the Santa Croce house, we're back in school mode. And these first 2 weeks are always a bit hectic until everyone knows their schedule, who gets up early which day, who comes home when, etc., etc. And this year it's also intense in terms of moral support. Simon, my eldest, started his first year of high school, and he's my introverted child. And in fact, he's actually much more introverted than me, much more similar to my dad, to the point where he's almost socially awkward. Unfortunately, he ended up in a class where he knows no one. In fact, he knows no one in the whole school. And it's really hard. When he first learned about these news, he just kind of broke down and just had a big giant meltdown. So now he got used to this idea and he's a trooper. So he just goes there. But he's lonely. So he ends up messaging me during lunch breaks because he's just bored and he's not talking to anyone. And as an introverted mother, I have to be very careful with what kind of advice I give him. Because I guess the difference between then, so when we grew up, and now is that he has this awareness, he has the knowledge, and he knows that he's an introvert and what that means. And I guess even more so because we talk about it all the time at home. He knows that I have a podcast, etc., etc. Sometimes it feels like he uses that like an excuse. And as his mother, I feel like he's not even trying to make an effort. So it's like, well, I'm an introvert, so obviously it's normal. I don't talk to anybody or I don't have any friends. Or it's hard for me to see because obviously I really want him to have friends. And it's just really not easy right now. And I hope he'll somehow get out of his shell and, start talking to some of the kids that feel similar to him. I just remember now, talking about this, I need to read Quiet Power, which is Susan Cain's book for introverted kids again. I read it a couple of years ago, but I think now would be a good time to read that again. There's a version of Susan Cain's Quiet book for kids, and that's called Quiet Power. So that's what's going on in my world. But on to today's episode. I'm talking to Doug Holt, the owner of 6 companies. Yes, 6 companies, all centered around helping business owners grow their businesses and live epic lives. In short, he's a father, a husband, a trusted friend, an advisor, an entrepreneur, an investor, an adventurer, and a regular guy who enjoys learning new things over a great glass of wine, beer, or a good cup of coffee. His clients know him mostly as their trusted advisor and friend. His passion is helping business owners get unstuck and gain clarity so they can live the lives they truly dream of and take control of their businesses in a way that supports their dreams. Just like with past guest Michelle Evans, I ended up hiring Doug to fix the SEO of my website. And we're now working on Google Ads together. So I just love this way of getting to know people, kind of really getting a good feel about the way they run their business and then collaborating with them. So if you need SEO or Google Ads or any kind of website work like that, I definitely recommend checking out Doug. I'll mention his website again after, but it's dougholtonline.com. So now without further ado, here's my conversation with Doug Holt. Enjoy. How are you today, Doug?
I'm great. So thankful and happy to be here.
Well, I'm thankful too. I just said in the offline conversation we had earlier that it doesn't happen too often yet that introverts reach out to me and want to be on my show, but I'm always so happy when it does happen. And more, I guess it also just takes some time for the show to, get the right audience. And so I was really excited to get your message. Thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, thank you for putting out such a great show for us introverts. I find each of your episodes so packed with information and inspiration. Couldn't help but reach out.
That just makes my day. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So, Doug, besides the bio that I always read to my audience in the intro, tell us your story. Tell us how you as an introvert are managing 6 businesses and how, you manage your energy doing all of these different things.
Wow. Yeah. So it's a long story and we don't have enough time for all of it and how I got to this place. But it really was, starting back around 2007, I was, a business owner. I had actually 3 businesses I was running. And I think being an introvert, spending time by myself, kind of recharging myself allowed me to continue developing these new streams of income. I enjoyed the aspects of being able to do things by myself. And it was back then that I started realizing, I was the youngest business owner in Santa Barbara, California, on the main street. And, I had multiple businesses and people were telling me how successful I should be. I got so tired of going to networking events and putting myself out there that I really made a transition. And that's kind of where I went through this whole, journaling process where I came up with kind of a mantra or a question that I ask people now, which, Sarah, is if you were to write down the last 2 years of your life, would that be a book that you would want to read? And if not, why not? And then what would you do to make it a bestseller, like a page turner? And that's when I really made a jump and formed my businesses around my life rather than the other way around. And there wasn't anybody really doing it. So I came up with a way of saying, hey, look, I'm an introvert. I love people, but I fill my energy up by myself. So how do I form these businesses around me rather than trying to put myself in a box and form them around the businesses themselves? So kind of a reverse approach that most people take. And that's really allowed me to this point where I run 6 companies. Really, I just have a great team. And I know you talk a lot about that. And I have an amazing team who I love. They love me. And a lot of them have been with me for 7, 8, 9 years. They really allow me to live this lifestyle that I live.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think that's what we're good at, deep, long-lasting relationships with, not too many people, but a few really good ones. Yeah. All right. So tell us about these strategies. How did you, do that in terms of, you said wrap the businesses around you. So how did you do that?
It was a process. This is something that I teach now. It took me a long time. It was a culmination. I've always had coaches and mentors, and most of them told me it was impossible. They said, Doug, look, they were successful. The one I'm thinking of right now, he was in his 70s, and you would know, in fact, you mentioned it in your website quite a bit, one of the companies that he founded. So a very successful person told me it was impossible. And as a stubborn introvert, that was just more of a challenge to me of how I could do it. And so what I started writing out was, what is my ideal life like? What does my ideal day look like? And really kind of mapped it out. And then I took that calendar of my ideal life, and then compared it to my normal calendar. And in my normal calendar back then, I had, business meetings, networking events. I was very involved in the community. So it could be like a Rotary Club meeting, or a speech. I was asked to give a lot of speeches based on one of my professions that I've gone into. And so what I decided to do was figure out a roadmap, and I call it the gap, right? So there's a place that we are today and a place that we want to be. And the secret sauce is really that gap in between. What is that gap? And that gap for me was making sure that all of my businesses were online. And then I followed the basic process of eliminating anything in my business that wasn't successful to an outcome that I wanted, then automated anything else. So eliminate, automate, and then I delegated. That's where I followed your lead. I delegated things to my staff, and I started building a team around me that allowed me that freedom and that opportunity to live life on my own terms. Yeah, fast forward to today. After this interview, I'll walk out and I'll go wrestle with my 1-year-old son and hang out with my wife most of the day. That's just a normal day for me.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And I like that you also share the struggles, because you didn't just wake up one morning and, had 6 businesses.
No.
It was a journey, and, it took a while to get there. You knew where you wanted to go, and that was your goal. And that's why you had your roadmap, and slowly but surely you got there. That's great. There's one question that comes up for me, something that I'm kind of dealing with right now, and I've heard Tim Ferriss talking about it as well, is when you create this lifestyle business, right? But I don't know how it is where you are in Santa Barbara, but here I'm still pretty much the only one. I mean, I have two local friends who are also building a similar business. But other than that, my regular friends, they just have 9-to-5 jobs. And so I find myself in this situation where I have a lot of freedom, but not necessarily so many people to spend that time with. Have you seen that as well? And what kind of strategies did you find to, deal with that?
Great question. So if you think back, when I started this journey was 2007. I remember the date because I remember sitting at a cafe with my journal. When I started, there were very few people in the world doing what you and I do now and live this lifestyle. So it was a scary jump. But fast forward to today, I mean, look, you and I right now are connecting, having a dialogue. And now, with the power of the internet, the power of social media, you can really connect with people all over the world at any point in time and establish those relationships. I have friends that I talk to, on a regular basis that are on the other side of the world. So I get up early in the morning, having a cup of coffee, and, for their evening time after supper, we'll get online and chat. And we created chat rooms. I also, even being an introvert, what I spend most of my time doing is running mastermind groups and coaching people. And so I'm always with people that I like during the day. And so that allows me or affords me the ability to have those deep, deep connections. Now, I know there are other groups that are out there. There's mastermind groups. In fact, I know another woman who I worked with, and what she did is she joined a Zoom group. And so what it is it's freelance entrepreneurs who are freelancers, and they actually connect into a Zoom room. Everybody mutes themselves until they want to talk, and then they unmute them. Right. So it's almost like a virtual office type environment, which I thought was really interesting.
So that's on the whole day or like certain times a day?
I've never participated in it, but I believe you can join, right? So you have to pay a membership fee to be part of this group.
Right.
And then they put you in a room, so to speak, like Zoom has breakout rooms, as I'm sure you know. And so they put you in a room and now you're with, I believe, 10 people or so. And you can turn your camera off, your video off. I think you can log in, log out whenever you want to. But you can also jump in and just see other people working, which is one of the biggest things for us that, we have this lifestyle that we've worked hard to build. And now you can feel like you're on an island, you're isolated.
Yeah. That's what I was referring to. I do definitely appreciate these online masterminds, and I'm in several groups. What I'm missing, I think, is, and this is fairly recent to me because until now it's like, well, I'm, meeting people online. But fairly recently, I'm like, well, I do like the physical connection and meeting people in real life. And so what I did, really funny because I'm the one who hates networking, I joined the movement called LinkedIn Local, and it fits well with my LinkedIn, services. And so it's interesting how an introvert starts a networking event, but the networking event is so different. It's all about bringing people together and human connections. So it's not the typical networking where you just go, hey, nice to meet you. What do you do? But it's really about, personal connections, talking about these lifestyle questions and all of that. So that's kind of what I'm craving right now. And I think we go through phases. And so it's interesting how the online world for an introvert can also go back to, oh, I actually like to meet people in person and have a real conversation.
Absolutely. That's great. I've never heard of that. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, they're all over the world. So I'm sure in California they have them as well. And it's really a different kind of networking that I think suits introverts much better because it's not like I'm there to show off, my success. I'm just there as a person and to talk to other people.
Yeah. I love that. Have you heard of the app Shaper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it here too, but it's not very much used yet. So I've been on it, but not really found any interest on it yet.
I haven't used it much. I just know that a colleague of mine mentioned it. I thought, based on what you were just talking about, it sounds very similar. I like the idea and the concept of it. I just don't know how it works practically.
Yeah, it's basically an app that shows you who else you might know that's in your local area on LinkedIn. And now LinkedIn actually, they have a button now where it says, see who else you know. And then it gives you the same kind of indication who else in your region is on LinkedIn. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. It's going to get
Let's,
more and more personalized, as these technologies grow. I
yeah.
think it's going to become easier and easier to connect with people, which is so interesting that, the advent of social media, I feel it's disconnected a lot of people more than connected them in a
Yeah.
lot
And I
of
think
ways.
we're achieved or got to a point where we're like, yeah, we want to just go back to, humanizing and personalizing our interactions. It's interesting. Yeah. Let's talk about your businesses then a little bit, Doug. Tell me about your different revenue streams. My audience is always interested in how to build an online business, but also what kind of revenue streams you could have. So tell us about that.
As you said, I have 6 different companies. So, we could be here all day at the revenue streams that all those businesses build. And I think it's important for the listeners to know that I'm just crazy, right? I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid. I was selling, fruit door to door, picking up the trees. I had a garden in my backyard. I've just always been an entrepreneur. Some of the streams, or I guess the focus is where I get the bulk of the revenue coming in is, in the past 5 years, I've really done a lot of business and lifestyle mentoring. And so I have, a 90-day jumpstart program, a 6-month ramp-up program, and a 1-year mastery program. And I spend a lot of time doing that. It's basically mentoring business owners only. It's only business owners.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I work with because that's how I got my freedom. Then I also own 2 digital marketing agencies. I have a business partner in one, and I have a full stack digital marketing agency and another one that specializes really in developing marketing strategies for people. So what we do is we lay out a full 1-year roadmap for our clients. And so they know exactly what they should be doing in each avenue, email marketing, digital, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, etc. Then we also have a product called the Authority Maker. And that's where we basically take one person and make them an authority in any given niche that they want to do. And so that's really helpful. That has a lot to do, again, with the digital marketing aspect of it.
Right.
And then I also run a bunch of mastermind groups for online business owners.
Okay.
So, like
Only
I said,
that.
I could keep going and going and going, but I won't. We'll leave it there. Most of my businesses, what they focus on business owners, especially online business owners, because that's where I came from.
So where does the fitness fit in there?
Perfect. Yeah. So I run mastermind groups with a business partner for online fitness professionals. So that's one of those revenue streams.
Okay.
So when I say I do mentoring for business owners, I don't just talk about business, right? Because you just mentioned it. You want connection. So there's the relationship component, right? There's all these other components. And if you're not healthy or fit, then everything else is going to crumble around you as well. Mm-hmm. So I really work on 5 main pillars: mind, body, soul, relationships, and business. But I only work with business owners.
Yeah. And so that's only for the fitness owners, or that's just kind of your 5 pillars for everything you do?
5 pillars for everything I do. The fitness owners too, because they're business people and they're human. So, I have 18 degrees and certifications in fitness. Like I said, I'm crazy. So as an introvert, you have some time alone, and I love learning. Passionately love learning. And so even fitness professionals, you might be shocked, online fitness professionals, after the photo shoot is done, they're just like you and I, and they let their bodies go, or they're focusing on building their business, and maybe they have kids, and if you've had kids, sleep just doesn't happen. And so, they need to get back onto wellness more than just fitness. I definitely cover that in depth with them and really make sure that they're accountable to their goals.
Interesting. Wow. So yeah, you definitely need more than just one team. You need I guess a team for each company to kind of juggle all those different things. Wow.
I have a woman that works with me. She's been with me for 7 years, and she is my right-hand woman. She's amazing. And so she keeps me sane. Between her and I, we pretty much run the companies, her and I, and she communicates with the rest of the team and delegates out. And I have a leader for each team that we work with. Yeah. And 2 of my coaching clients have become business partners of mine. So that's been great.
Wonderful. Congrats. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the introverted superpowers, like I like to call them. So what would you say, Doug, is your biggest strength as an introverted entrepreneur?
I think my biggest strength is that I can work by myself without needing validation from others. I know a lot of introverts that like to work from coffee shops, so they're still around people, but don't have to interact as much.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me. I can be in a place in just a room by myself and be perfectly content, or walking, in the woods, listening to an audiobook or a podcast and then turning it into content. So I think my superpower, just by being an introvert, being able to, hold space for myself and feel secure with that and not need validation, has really allowed me to build these companies.
Yeah, that's so true. I think we don't need as much feedback all the time. And yes, should I do this? Should I not? We just do it. And your 6 businesses show that you did it right. And that sometimes it's just a matter of hitting that publish button or just doing it rather than always asking for 3 different people for advice. So definitely see that as an introverted strength. What about a challenge that you think, something that is still, even though you have these 6 successful businesses, that's still challenging you because you're an introvert?
Again, this falls right in line with what you mentioned. It's my lack of desire to go out and meet new people and network. At this point in my business career, I know it could help, but at the same time, I'm in a comfortable space, with the businesses. So, by being an introvert, I could easily just, stay in the house all day or just hang out with my family. And my wife, she wants to go out and, meet new people or go to a barbecue. And there's a big part of me that is like, I don't know. I think I might just stay in here and read.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, thank God for the internet, because every day I think, well, I couldn't be doing this if we didn't have the internet, because then, what choice would we have, Doug? We would have to go out there and go network and all of that, right?
Yeah. And then, when you go out and network, and I did this, again, I started a brick and mortar business in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started a magazine, et cetera. So I had to network with a lot of people, as a young business owner, and it just drained me. Right. Mm-hmm. And I hear this from so many business owners that I mentor, is that you feel like you're just wearing a mask, right? And then you take that mask off when you get home.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way life should be.
No. Yeah. So true. So done wearing a mask. Take me to an aha moment, some story that you want to tell the audience where you had a light bulb moment.
Yeah. So, I'm going to expand upon the story I told a second ago, because I think it was the biggest pivotal moment of my life, definitely my adult life. So I was at a coffee shop, and it's in the morning and there's not many people around. I've got my journal in front of me. And that's where I started really looking at this in my life. And again, my business, so I had a very elite fitness studio where most of my clients were multimillionaires and very successful, and I was running a magazine, and I was also doing consulting at the time. My office is not far from the beach, so I can go down to the beach at any time I want to too. So it's pretty idyllic life. And most everybody around me is just telling me how lucky I am. Oh, you're so lucky to have this life. You've built these businesses. Wow, it's just amazing. You're such a lucky person. Don't change a thing. But inside, I just wasn't fulfilled or happy. Mm-hmm. And that's where I got that journal and I wrote down like, hey, if I wrote down the last 2 years of my life, would it be a bestseller?
Right.
Would other people want to read it? More importantly, would I want to read it? And that's why I realized I wasn't even the hero in my own story. Mm-hmm. And that really hit me hard, because although I was successful from the outside, I just wasn't fulfilled. I felt like I was wearing a mask. I felt like I was putting on one mask for one business to another mask. And that's where I realized, I was like, I had recently had a friend pass away, young. So I was like, wait, why am I doing this?
Right.
And I think as an introvert as well, I mean, you're trying to figure things out ourselves often, rather than just talking it out with a bunch of people in a group setting or trying to fill up that way. And that's where I came up with the idea of like, hey, every day I get to write my own life. Every single day. And so in the morning, in fact, today I write, what would be great? Today would be great when I do this. And I write another page in my story. And it's not a story for you. It's not a story for my wife. It's a story for me. And I found out when I started living that, authoring my own story, that what I found was really, I started connecting at a deeper level with the people around me. And what I found was those masks that I was wearing that I thought I was fooling everybody with, those ones we put on where we act super happy when we're not, everybody sees right through those. Mm-hmm. And when I took those masks off and was allowed myself to be myself, that's when everything just skyrocketed for me in life. It took time. Like, I don't want to say it was at that moment I closed my journal and everything was, great. But that's when I really started building this lifestyle. And that was the biggest aha moment, and it's been the biggest change.
Wow, that's really cool, Doug. And I think it has a lot to do just with mindset, because it's not like you moved and you sold your businesses and now you're living in Hawaii or something like that. It's just your mindset shift because you started to be more aware. Other people told you how lucky you are. You just never saw it. And so I guess writing it down helped you be aware of, yeah, I really am lucky and I can get rid of these masks and my business will still be successful.
So actually, I did end up selling one business, the brick and mortar business. And my wife and I now travel everywhere we go. We have a 1-year-old. So we're in Bend, Oregon, and we're going to travel across the United States next month and take a month off and just travel.
Right.
So I did make some big shifts in my business and personal life, but you're 100% correct. It's all mindset.
Right.
And that's really what I just dove deep and studied, kind of like I did fitness, and really pursued mindset work.
Yeah. I think we all have to go through that at one point. It's just sometimes, we're not ready yet. And so you just think you have to work harder and harder and harder until you realize, well, hard work doesn't necessarily, pay off. What does pay off is smart work and maybe focus more on internal growth. But yeah, if we, learn that at school, I think it would be so much easier for everybody, but we don't learn at school, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh, you're spot on. Well, I mean, think about the way I look at mindset work, Sarah, is, it's like working out. You don't just go to the gym one day and say, okay, I'm fit, I'm done.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. And for some reason with business, with our relationships, with personal life, we kind of feel like, okay, we got there and now I can just coast. And that doesn't happen. It would be very analogous to trying to get in shape. You're trying to lose a little body fat, maybe 5 pounds for the summer or whatever it is. You don't just go one day and say, you know what, I'm going to work out 10 hours today and that's going to do it. It's consistency. So always working with, in mindset, I think is critical.
Yeah. I'm 2 years in learning to meditate, and it's a process. It's practice. That's why they call it practice, because you're practicing every day.
Absolutely.
So that's a good lead into the next question, which is about the golden nuggets. And you already shared one of the personal habits, so journaling every day. Do you have another one that you want to share?
The one that I think gets missed the most, and it's not just because I do it, but always have a coach and mentor in your corner. Just always. It's almost impossible, at least for me. I'll speak for myself. I don't know about you, but I always think I have great ideas. And I always think, oh, wow, it's a great idea. But having somebody to keep me accountable, bounce ideas off of, and I'm not always on, right? Sometimes I hit lows, or, I take a left when I should go right. And so having a mentor or coach is mission critical. Now, this could be a trusted friend, right? Or it could be hiring somebody. And I always, always, always have somebody that I'm working with that allows me just to get a little better.
I think you're right. It's so important to remember that as introverts, it goes together with asking for help. A lot of times my guests say they struggle with asking for help. It's the same thing, having a coach is asking for help. Often us introverts, we just don't want to do that. We don't want to admit it. We just so much in our heads that we forget that you go way faster if you do have a coach. So very, very good reminder. Thank you. What about an internet resource, some online tool that you use that you would like to share?
I have two, if that's okay. One is Grammarly, and I absolutely love Grammarly.
On YouTube, so they annoy me, but tell me all about it.
They have a free version and a paid version, and I actually require all my staff to use it. I have a college degree and a native English speaker. It catches errors all the time in my spelling, whether it be email, social media, which is great. So if I'm on LinkedIn, I'm typing, something up, whether it be a comment or, even a post, it's an app that goes on for Chrome or other extensions, and it'll actually catch it and say, hey, did you mean this instead of that?
Right.
Especially for someone like myself that can use as much help as possible. It helps me look better than I really am, which I appreciate.
Okay. Great. I'll link to that. What's the second one?
The second one is the digital dashboard. And this one is, to me, is a lifesaver. I'm not a huge fan I used to hate analytics, right? They're not sexy. I just don't like them, but I like the results that they give me. And I know other business owners, if you're online and you have a business, you need to have a digital dashboard. What the digital dashboard does for me is allows me to log in and see everything that's going on within the marketing of my business. And I can check all the businesses. So I'll know exactly how many people came to my website from LinkedIn, for example. How many people came in and interacted with the website. And so all too often as business owners, we're working and we think we know what's going on. But now in the internet age, you really can look at everything that's going on and you have all the information for the first time in history. And it really shocks me that business owners aren't using this as much.
That's great. Yeah. I have to admit, I'm not much of an analytical person either. And I'm kind of adventuring into Facebook ads right now. And I'm so glad I found Michelle, who's a fellow introvert. The podcast is great for that. You just find all these great people and coaches. And so she's helping me set up these Facebook ads campaigns. And same thing there, obviously you have to measure everything. Every single click needs to be tracked. And oh my gosh, it's not at all my thing, but I'm aware that it's so important, and same for what you're saying. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'll share a quick story. I was coaching a woman who teaches Facebook marketing. She's really well known. I won't say her name because most of your listeners might know her. She speaks internationally. And when I was talking to her and I said, hey, where do people come from when they buy your course? And she looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, Facebook, obviously. And she said it in such a harsh tone. And we're friends, right? So she can do that. We go back and forth a lot. I become friends with all my clients. I cross that line that everybody says you don't cross. I just don't believe in it. So I was talking to her. And so we looked at her analytics. I look at the pictures. I need them to be in pretty pie charts for me. I don't want to see the numbers. But she was getting over 60% of her sales from Google, not from Facebook. And she didn't know. Wow. And that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So those numbers, you just need to know them, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, could you imagine any other business, your local coffee shop or a big company, not knowing where 60% of their customers were coming from? It would never happen.
No. Wow. I don't want to stop, Doug. I want to just keep talking to you. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. I like the depth of it. We're not just talking business, we're also talking mindfulness and all of that. So that really brings me to the great last question, which is, what are you grateful for today or this week or this month?
So much. First of all, I'm grateful for being on your podcast. So thank you so much and connecting with you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Every morning I journal at least 5 things I'm grateful for. And the one thing that always ends up in my journal is really just the fact that I'm able to live my life on my own terms and, spend time with my family. I have a 1-year-old and I spend every day with him. I get to hang out with my wife. We go on walks, go to the river, and just really able to spend quality time with my family and do it when I want to do it, how I want to do it. And I'm just so grateful that I took that leap and that jump.
Yeah, so true. And time flies. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I have to struggle to get some time with them because they just don't want to hang out with me anymore. So definitely enjoy those moments. And I think what you said there last is also important, is you're grateful that you took that decision. You did that, I was just on a bike ride with my husband this weekend, and I looked at the people and I said to my husband, yes, I'm grateful for what has been given to me, but I'm also grateful that I was brave enough to make that decision, because there's still, probably, I don't know how many percentage, but a big majority of people who don't dare to take that step and go out as an entrepreneur. And so sometimes I feel like I'm privileged, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I did this and it wasn't always easy. So yeah. I think you just mentioned that as well. I think it's important to acknowledge.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. And to you, hats off. I mean, I'm sure a lot of your listeners, as well are, wanting to jump into the foray of running their own business or even having their own podcast. But yet you took the steps and, again, I use that bridge that gap kind of idea. and you bridge the gap between wanting to do something and actually doing it, right? Which is so hard for so many people to do. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much for this conversation. It has been an absolute pleasure, Doug. Thanks so much for reaching out to me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, and keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you. That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You can find out more about Doug at dougholtonline.com. And you'll find this episode's show notes and all the links and Doug's favorite quote at sarahzenecroce.com/episode 62. And if you're listening to this show on a mobile device, you can click on the description and you'll actually find all the clickable links in there. Also, as a heads up, I'm thinking a lot about the topic marketing with integrity, or conscious marketing, or marketing for introverts, something like that these days. So I've added a new question to my usual set of questions about that topic, and I'll ask guests how they feel about marketing their business. And I might even go back to previous guests and just have a short 10-minute conversation with them about this, because I feel like this is something that concerns all of us, the promotion side of our business, the marketing side. And yes, in full transparency, this is research for the new program that I'm working on, so stay tuned. This is Sarah Zenecroce signing off from the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Remember, you need to use your unique introverted superpowers in order to make a difference. Talk to you soon.